right, today we're speaking with Kevin Palmer, who's the Senior Vice President of Single Family Portfolio Management at Freddie Mac. Kevin, thanks so much for taking some time and joining us on DS5.
Thanks for having me.
So my first question, how would you say that you view Freddie Mac's role in supporting the housing market through the pandemic that we've been through over this past year?
Yeah, this pandemic has been really difficult for virtually all, across the world, and homeowners definitely were no exception to that. And I think first, that's one area that highlights the key role that Freddie Mac plays, especially during times of stress, to be able to help provide that liquidity and stability to the housing market. And I would argue at least that support is one of the key reasons why housing has remained a bright spot during all of this, and so I think that is so important. I think additionally, we've literally had millions of homeowners that during this pandemic have had an inability to be able to pay their mortgage, and I think absent the support that we've been able to provide, we would not have been able to have we would have had another crisis on our hands. And so just for Freddie Mac borrowers, it was hundreds and hundreds of thousands of borrowers that fell late on their mortgage, and we were able to roll out a broad forbearance program. And forbearance essentially is a way to provide a timeout, a period in which borrowers are not required to pay their mortgage. And in fact, not only are they not required to pay their mortgage, but they're also not reported delinquent to the credit bureaus, and so it does not impact their credit history. That gives them the kind of breathing room and time to be able to get back on their feet again, so that when they do, resume receiving that income, getting the job, whatever it might be, they're in a position to be able to pay that mortgage again. And so forbearance has been a huge, program to be able to provide the relief needed. But we've also looked at what are the right exit strategies from forbearance. How can they gracefully go from this pause on their mortgage payment to paying their mortgage again without any issues. And so we've rolled out some additional programs such as payment deferral that essentially defers the amount that payments they missed to the very end of their mortgage. This is all done interest-free, and they're able to just resume making their mortgage payment. So that's been key on helping existing homeowners. We've also had a big effort to ensure that there's broad awareness of homeowners of these relief options. Often when you're not able to pay your bills, you don't often reach out immediately. And so wanting to make sure that borrowers understand that relief is available if they need it. I think additionally, a key way that we've supported the mortgage market is on new originations. On new originations, when the pandemic hit, we had to look across all of our different policies and procedures and said, hey, we want to continue to support this market, but we want to do it in a safe way, in a socially distanced way, if you will. And so let's look at all of the different things that we have historically required, see if we still need those, see if we can do it in a creative way. We've seen a huge investment by not only us, but a lot of the mortgage companies in digital platforms. That has helped create a more digital type experience for many borrowers. Additionally, things like appraisals, that is a key part of a new mortgage, investing in ways that allow more digital appraisals and things like that to help streamline and automate things that can be automated while still ensuring that the risk is still being fully underwritten. That has allowed the mortgage market to continue to work and operate and provide new mortgages for those that want to participate in this housing market.
Well, you mentioned obviously some of the programs such as forbearance programs, for foreclosure extensions or moratoriums. Obviously, at some point, those are going to come to an end. So could you speak a little bit about how the housing industry, the mortgage industry should be getting ready for when this happens?
Yeah, that's a great question because actually I hope this whole pandemic comes to an end, and as such, I think many of these programs will also come to an end. But before I even touch on that, I want to mention, I think some of these things will not come to an end. I think I mentioned the investment in a lot of the digital platforms. I think a lot of that is kind of created a change of behavior. So not only do we have better digital platforms that borrowers are able to access, but we also have the borrower going to these digital platforms, kind of the change in consumer behavior. And they found that it's an easy experience. I mentioned forbearance before. The vast majority of borrowers that started forbearance have done so on a digital platform. And I think in the future, when there's some type of crisis, some type of concern out there, now borrowers are more willing and will easily access these digital platforms. So I think a lot of that, I'm hopeful, will not go away. And actually, I think it benefits all of us around. But you're exactly right. Things like, forbearance, foreclosure moratorium, these types of things, I think will go away. I think, let me speak to specifically forbearance. Forbearance is not something that we created during this pandemic. Forbearance is something that we've had in our toolkit when we've seen like natural disasters or wildfires or other types of things happen. We will roll out forbearance in that specific area. One of the reasons why we were able to respond so quickly during this pandemic is because we just took those toolkits that we applied in very specific areas and really made it very broad. And so to the extent that something in the future happens that we need to roll out forbearance again, we're able to do so pretty quickly.
My last question, can you give us a little bit of an inside view of how some of these homeowner options are performing in today's obviously challenging climate?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mentioned the 500,000+ borrowers in just Freddie Mac's portfolio that have started on forbearance. We've actually seen roughly 2/3 of those already exit from forbearance. Just in the last couple of months, we've seen a huge improvement in a lot of indices. If I look at new COVID cases, if I look at over 50% of the population is vaccinated, we're seeing the economy open back up. Unemployment rate is going down. Things are definitely moving in the right direction, and as such, we're seeing more and more borrowers being able to gracefully exit off of forbearance, sustain that home ownership, which is so important. We're definitely not out of the woods. So we've seen a huge success so far, and I think it's partly because of the success and the trend that we've seen from the pandemic. That's a huge part of it, but also having the right tools available for borrowers to access. At the same time, we still have many borrowers that are still on forbearance, and for many of them, they've been on forbearance for close to a year. Their circumstance is probably a little bit more serious than the other borrowers that have already come off forbearance. So we want to make sure that the tools that maybe work for the first half of the borrowers might need to be different than the tools that we exercise for the remaining borrowers. So we've got things like our FlexMod program that allows not only them to resume making a mortgage payment, but also allows a reduced mortgage payment for those borrowers that need it. And having our servicers and mortgage companies work appropriately with these borrowers to be able to have that reduced mortgage payment is key. I think one of the things that we constantly are emphasizing, sustainable home ownership, encouraging homeowners and borrowers to continue to work with their mortgage company, stay in touch with them. The mortgage company can constantly advise on the options and relief options that are available to them, understanding their situation. We're constantly listening to them to the extent that we need additional tools to roll out to be able to help support homeowners. We're here ready and able to be able to roll those out.
Some great insights, Kevin. Well, thank you so much for taking some time to speak with us here on DS5. We really appreciate it, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching. For more, please visit dsnews.com and themreport.com, the most trusted news sources in the housing and mortgage industries. And if you'd like to share your insights with us, please reach out to editor@thefivestar.com. Until next time, be well.